Okay, customer segmentation. So an introduction, what is customer segmentation, right? So customer segmentation actually stems from over the last few years, we are always talking about customer-centric, customer-obsessed, customer engagements, right? And it stems from this concept called engagement marketing. So what is engagement marketing? Engagement marketing is creating meaningful relationships with your customers over a time period, right? So when we understand engagement marketing, we are creating meaningful relationships, right, with our customers. In order for us to create meaningful relationships, we need to understand them very well. So what I always explain in class when I teach is understanding our customers like how we actually understand our boyfriend, girlfriends, husband, or wives, right? And why we have to do customer segmentation is because no two customers are the same, right? We may be in the same age group, but we have different educational backgrounds, we have different behavior, we have different thinking, we have different perceptions about things. So once we analyze all of these points, all of these data insights, right, then we begin to see a pattern. When we are able to see this pattern, we are able to then make business decisions in a targeted manner. So that's why this is what customer segmentation is. So customer segmentation is a crucial targeting exercise, right? We have to focus on the right target group. It's not about targeting the whole world. It's not about targeting the whole Myanmar. So focus on the right target group, identify which is your target market segment, and the right targeting will then lead us to very clear, very focused decisions. And the right targeting will also help us make sure our advertising spending is a little bit more efficient and effective. Customer segmentation is also a guide for our strategy, right? Because the reliable data and the insights that we have will help us, will inspire us to come up with creative ideas or strategies. And also when we are trying to get data from customers, the deep understanding of customers will make sure that we are putting them in our top of mind, right? Because if you're going for a customer-obsessed, customer-centric strategy, then you need to make sure your customers are always top of mind. What do they want, what they like, how they think, how they feel, right? And data and insights will always help you avoid mistargeting, okay? So what customer segmentation is not? It is not a one-off project, because customers are always changing. Customers are, the way we behave are always changing. Look at that. This is the best example. Pre-COVID.
Hello.
And now.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Sama, they said it's a little bit windy there and can't hear clearly. They said.
That's because yes, I have my windows and everything open. Otherwise, I die of heat. Is it better now? Better now?
Better now. Right?
Okay. Yes, it's better.
Yes. Thank
you.
Okay.
Okay, so I will just die in because it's so hot in your country. But never mind, I'll try to survive this session. Okay, I'm going to continue. I'm going to start again. So customer segmentation is not a one-off project. Why? Because consumers are constantly changing. This is a very good example. Pre-COVID, the way we shop, and now post-COVID, the way we shop is already different kind of behavior, right? So opportunities are constantly evolving. They're always changing. Trends are always changing. So customer segmentation cannot be a one-time exercise that you do. It needs to continuously be refreshed. It is also not your entire strategy. It is just a guide for your strategy, because the insights that we get from the data, from customer segmentation, right, will help us then will inspire us in our strategy planning. So it is just one part of your strategy or or rather the point before you start your strategic planning. So why is there a need to segment? So these are just some figures and facts. So consumers expect personalization. Here it says 31% want brands to offer personalized products. Who doesn't like personalized services, right, or products? 16% discover brands via personalized purchase recommendations on websites. So it's example, like if I think a lot of you are familiar with Netflix, you have shopped on shop.com before, hopefully. You know, after you buy a certain thing or after you watch a certain movie or a TV show or whatever, then Netflix or shop.com will then say recommended for you. These recommendations are actually based on the insights of what you had, right? If you had only done it one time, you imagine if you have done customer segmentation exercise one time. The one action is not going to tell you a lot of things. Just because I watch a comedy one time does not mean I like comedy all the time, right? So that's why it needs to be done over a period of time so that you can see patterns develop. Then you can make sure, oh, look at that, Eileen watches comedies 10 times, so she definitely likes comedies, you know. But if it's just one time or two times, it is very difficult to be 100% sure that that is the right data. And then 50% tend to opt for personalized loyalty rewards from brands, right? Who doesn't like, hey, Eileen, just for you, because you've been such a loyal customer, we're giving you 50% discount just for today or whatever, right? 24% will be most motivated to promote a brand online when something is here. Consumers are becoming harder to reach. 48% have used ad blockers in the past month. 31% have used VPNs in the past month, which makes it impossible to track through analytics, right? Effective online advertising is a lot more complex. 5% worry about how their personal data is being used by companies. 62% are concerned about the internet eroding their personal privacy. Now look, this privacy thing is very, when we talk about personalized marketing, right, there is a very thin line between privacy and trust, right? So the more personalized it is, so okay, like for Netflix recommending TV shows to me that I like, so that I don't have to search through the whole portfolio of TV comedies, right? TV shows, right? So the fine line here is to make yourself relevant for the customer. Then they won't find you annoying. Then they won't perceive you as stepping beyond the boundary of privacy, right? There's more opportunity than ever. Consumers today spend around 6 hours and 46 minutes online each day. That's a lot of time spent online. And with this time equally split between mobiles and PCs, 98% go on social media each month, spending an average of 2 hours, 29 minutes per day on these channels. And of course, these days, there's more competition than ever. Online ads are predicted to account for over half of the forecasted 660 billion global ad spend. And this is according to WARC data. WARC is a cloud-based data system. All right, so what are the benefits of customer segmentation for brands? Number one, it improves your focus. Okay, so let's put it this way. If you have one arrow, you cannot shoot 50 people, right? So if you have one arrow, you want to make sure you line up everyone exactly, so that at the max you can shoot is 3 people. Hopefully the arrow shoot 3 people. So it's all about focus. So if you do customer segmentation, it will help you as a brand improve your focus in terms of targeting. It ensures your strategy is customer first. So as I mentioned earlier, when you are digging out insights and data and studying behavior and pattern of your customers, you are naturally putting them at top of mind, right? So it will always be customer first. It uncovers opportunities. So what I want to talk about here is uncovers opportunities. I like to use this example because it's the easiest example to understand. Before, we all had selfie phones. You know, we were using digital cameras. Okay, and when we wanted to take a selfie, we had to, you know, either position it or place it on a table, set the timer 10 seconds and run back. And half the time, I don't know about you guys, but half the time for me, I would run back and the camera would be capturing my butt, right? Or half my head or something like that. So I think through studying patterns to listening to customer conversation, at that time when we never had selfie phones, we never knew we needed selfie phones, right? So, but listening to, oh, you know, the camera, look at it, it took my half my head again, or it captured my butt again. When brands listen to this kind of complaints or feedback or just discussions between friends or whoever, they are essentially uncovering opportunities. Then the R&D team can say, oh yeah, that is a problem for the digital camera. Maybe what people need is a selfie camera, right? Now, another benefit for customer segmentation is that it gives you a competitive edge over your competitors, of course, right? Because you understand your consumers, you're able to create better and more meaningful relationships with them. And it also helps you retain and attract the right customers. You may say, okay, my product is for the 25 to 34-year-olds, urban people. Well, but this group may not be the high spenders. If they're not the high spenders, they're not going to buy your product if your product is a bit of a high-end product, right? Example. So segmentation. Today's segmentation is recognized as a crucial component of major brands to guide decision making. But before we go into that, we need to look at the different kind of segmentation that can be done. Wow, that's a lot of words here, but okay, we'll go through it. So there are different ways to segment. So we're going to go through each pro and cons of the segmentation ways, right? So there's demographic, geographic, behavioral, and attitudinal. So demographic is your age, sex, right? And your education, your socio-economic class. So the pros of this is they're simple to define. Age, okay, 16 to 20 years old, 21. And they can be used to improve basic targeting, right? But when it comes to demographic segmentation, it is impossible to change or influence behaviors through advertising, right? They offer no competitive advantage and they can't be automatically be assumed to share other characteristics. So what it means here is that, okay, like I think I mentioned earlier, a 16-year-old in America, very different mindset than a 16-year-old that is in Myanmar, who is born and raised in Myanmar, right? Or a 20-year-old that is in Yangon, born and raised in Yangon, may have a very different mindset to a 20-year-old that is born and raised in Myitkyina. So just demographic segmentation alone is very difficult to understand more insights. More insights meaning why are they buying my product? Why are they not coming to my restaurant? Right? So that's demographic. Geographic segmentation, well, it uncovers where the consumers are, where they are. So it helps us when we want to place out-of-home media. Out-of-home, like for example, your LED screen on top of Ocean Stragonine, your billboards, all these are out-of-home media, right? So when you know geographic, when you have geographic segmentation data, you will know, oh, okay, near Tamway, these are the people that live within, I don't know, 5 km radius, 10 km radius. So if we were to advertise at this area, we will be able to hit all these kind of people, right? The cons of it is that location data, of course, is not sufficient. It's the same as demographic, right? First of all, you can't do this without demographic data. Just you know their location, but you don't know their age and sex and whatever. It is not possible. And again, the same as demographic, it lacks the depth needed to guide creative messaging. So creative messaging is the way you talk to a 40-year-old mom is very different from the way you talk to a 21-year-old teenager, right? So if you just only have geographic segmentation or even just basic demographic segmentation, it's going to be a bit hard for you to get creative or inspired in your strategic planning. Now, behavioral. Well, behavioral segmentation is, of course, you study the ways people behave. They can be better linked to business metrics such as sales volumes or profits. They give you essential clues into what channels to invest in. So what behavior of people on Facebook in Myanmar, or behavior of the millennials or the Gen Z on Facebook in Myanmar, or social media, right? You wake up, the moment you wake up, you reach for your phone and then you check your Facebook, or the last thing you do before you go to sleep, you check social media. So these are behaviors. So if you have this kind of insights, right, then you will know, oh, okay, I'm going to place an ad on Facebook at 8 a.m. in the morning, because that's when this group actually are most online, for example. For the cons, it's possible to change or influence behaviors through advertising based on behavioral segmentation, but only to a certain extent. So it is very much catered for media consumption habits. It's very much catered for habits, and also behaviors can change. Just as I mentioned to you earlier, pre-COVID and post-COVID, our behaviors, the way we shop has already changed. So it is unstable. It needs to be constantly updated. And finally, we have the attitudinal, or what we call the psychographics segmentation. So the pros, of course, is favored by communication planners like myself, because we have more insights about them. We have more on their lifestyle, their likes, their dislikes, their attitudes, right, basically. And so we are able to craft communication messages to hit them emotionally. Okay, attitudes change at a slower pace to behaviors, so they become more stable. They're more stable as data, right? The cons is they contain many different demographic subgroups, which can cause some challenges. So example would be, let's say, when I mentioned earlier, 16-year-old in US is very different from a 16-year-old Myanmar person, right? So, and their attitudes, their background, their educational background are all so different. So you still need to marry some sort of demographic data to get richer insights into understanding your customer segments. So before, when we talk about olden days, no, when we talk about traditional methods of doing customer segmentation, it was very broad. Okay, it was very broad. It was all mostly demographic, maybe some psychographic, but right now we can really narrow it down. We can have a segment of 25-year-old to 30-year-old people or females, okay, and we can break down that segment even further to 25-year-old to 30-year-old who likes hip hop, Eminem, for example, okay, and then the 25 to 30-year-olds who likes Iron Cross. Then there's the 25 to 30 years old who likes, I don't know, jazz music maybe. So we can go very narrow these days because of the digital and data that we have. We had to go broad. A lot of things were not digitized. So a lot of the research and data work that was done was very manual. So now, of course, it's affordable. You've got tools, you've got automated platforms, you've got MarTech, right? And the same, last time was time consuming, today is fast. I can go onto Facebook right now, go into analytics and look at my data immediately. That's just one part of data. So today you just need one research team, mostly internal. Previously multiple data sources, today one data source. Previously multiple platforms, today one platform, hopefully one platform. So the steps that matters is obviously finding the right. So our aim here when we do customer segmentation is to find data that makes guesswork obsolete. You know what we don't want to do is sitting down at our table at our office, not office, at home now. Everybody's working from home, hopefully. Sitting at our table and thinking, oh, I think my customers like this. I think my customer maybe would like. So we want to minimize that by having the right data in hand, right? So with wider access to psychographics, so psychographics data that tells us about their lifestyle, opinions, whether they are Democrat or Republican, or perceptions, right? Whether they perceive something as evil, whether they perceive something as good, whether they perceive something as high quality or low quality. When we have this kind of data, we then no longer need to do so much guessing. I think my customer maybe would like this. We would narrow this, we will eliminate this, right? This I think business. But then it isn't just about the depth of the data going deep, right? It's about the breadth. Okay, the breadth of the data, as I mentioned earlier already, we went through this, right? The breadth would be making sure we have demographics, geographics, behavioral, psychographics into our insights. It's not just about going so deep into behavioral data that we don't really have anything about psychographics or geographic locations even. So that doesn't work. So we need depth. We need both depth and breadth, right? Yeah. Sometimes it says here we also need regional data. The 20-year-old who's born and raised in Yangon versus the 20-year-old who was born and raised in Machina, they may be very different, attitude-wise, behavior-wise, right? So that's why we don't only focus on depth, we also need breadth. Now, creating segments with the right tools, I'm going to leave this to Co-William, who will be covering this in his session. So some of the common challenges with segmentation, right? Creating a segmentation that's high quality, actionable, and cost effective is a challenge. It's a challenge because of tools, because of platforms, and because it is there's so much data, there's so much insights to be had. You can imagine just Myanmar alone, the population is 52 million. That's a lot of data and insights to uncover, right? So that's one of the challenge. Ensuring global and local nuances are taken into account. So if you are, say, global brand, for example, Samsung or Coca-Cola in Myanmar, you cannot just then rely on your global data that you already have. You need to also marry this data with the local data that you're going to start digging, right? Integrating your segmentation across your entire business. So you have segmentation, but you have to then find the relevancy between this segmentation and between product or service that you offer, right? So you need to integrate. It's not just about getting the data and then, what do I do with this data? I don't know, actually, because my product is not for 16-year-olds, why am I digging data for 16-year-olds? That sort of stuff. Understanding how your segmentation is evolving over time. So this is the harder part, which I personally feel people don't pay attention to. They have data, they have insights of their customer segment. They've done it 5 years ago. 5 years ago is very different from now, So we need to constantly, as I mentioned earlier, I mentioned a lot of things earlier. We need to constantly refresh the data that we have in hand of our customer because we need to understand them. Now, 5 years ago, I was 20 years old. Now I'm 25. I'm thinking right now, the way I'm thinking when I was, it just says my internet connection is unstable. I hope you guys are still with me. Future-proofing your segmentation as much as possible. So future-proofing is about the refreshing, right? So continuously refreshing. It's hard work, but it needs to be done. So these are the common challenges. Woo! I didn't reach 45 minutes. It's great. Segmentation, crucial means of organizing consumers into groups to guide our decision making. And today, consumer is harder to reach because they're everywhere, right? They are on TikTok, they're on Facebook, they're on YouTube, they're basically everywhere, and they could be on all places, right? So, and they also have, each of us have very unique set of characteristics. We have different opinions, we have perceptions, you know. So grouping this kind of characteristics, grouping this kind of attributes is a very challenging task for businesses, right? Because as I said, Myanmar alone has 52 million people. So to be able to segment people who are with positive mindset, okay, that's one something. So you know, to go deep into your data, it's a challenging task. But despite that, consumers still want personalized engagement. They want tailored contents that are relevant for them. You know, they want to open Facebook and say, oh my God, these are rubbish, these ads, I don't like this ad, that, you know, then it becomes irritating, it becomes annoying. But when you're shown something that, hey, I was just thinking of, I want to buy that. When you're shown that, it becomes less annoying, right? And they want seamless purchase journeys. If I am on telephone, I can order by telephone and then it arrives. When it arrives, it's you know, pay by cash, pay by what? Seamless, convenient, right? If I'm going to order on Facebook, I can still order on Instagram. Data and insights. And of course, one-to-one relationship with the brand. You know, like I just placed an order for food for tomorrow, and they remember, oh, hi, you know, what do you want, the same order? Or, and it's not a robot, yeah? It's not that, oh, recommended for you because you ordered this, but it's actually someone on Messenger who says, okay, you've ordered this before, is this something you want to do again? And then I don't have to repeat again my address and so on and so forth, right? So one-to-one relationship, it feels a bit more personalized. Effective segmentation sets you up for success, especially if your goal is to build a brand that meets today's consumer requirements and connects on a deeper level. So 6 final tips before we finish. Number 1, don't mess with your data. So using a number of sources, different methodologies in collecting your data makes it very standalone. Okay, so this data is from Facebook, and then another method, maybe this method is from traditional research or exit surveys. So you have different areas, different methodologies of trying to gain your insights, consumer insights. Then when you're not placing all of these together, it's going to be very difficult to understand your consumers. It's just going to be standalone data. And I think that's a very big problem now. When we talk about big data, it's about integrating all of this data, right? So next, know your methodology. When it comes to data quality, methodology is everything. So don't just assume your provider or whoever is doing it right. Check for yourself by choosing a vendor with transparent, clear, and robust methodology. You need to know how they're collecting the data. Is it valid? Is it credible? Right? Know your type. There are a lot of ways to segment your audience, right? Demographic, psychographic, behavioral, attitude. The key lies in knowing what you want to achieve. What do you want to achieve out of your customer segmentation? It's the same concept as with everything that we do. Before we dive in to do it, we want to know what is the outcome we want after we have spent money and we spend time and we spend resources on doing it, right? So when we know the purpose, when we know the outcome that we want, then we can find, okay, which is the segment that we want to dive into to gather data and insights. So start small. Don't dive straight into, 52 million people in Yangon, in Myanmar, right? use the platform to get a grip of your audience and market, and then speak to the experts about getting a more customized insight. Then next, connect your data sources as I already explained. Make sure it is one single point of view, the single point of view data of one customer. I may be on Facebook, I may be on YouTube, I may watch Netflix, I may go to the store, I may go to the supermarket. All of this data needs to relate to each other to understand me as Eileen, right? So find that right platform, find that right methodology to be able to integrate your data. And last of all, keep it fresh, because just don't think that segmentation studies is one-off. You, like I said, 5 years ago, you've done a customer segmentation of your customers, but 5 years ago, 25 to 35-year-old age group. Today, they are 30-year-old to 35-year-old age group, or 30-year-old to 40 years old age group. So behavior is different, and the 25-year-olds today behave very differently from the 25-year-olds 5 years ago. So we definitely keep things fresh and make sure we continue to upgrade or refresh our data all the time when it comes to customers, when it comes to human beings, right? So that's it for my session. Thank you very much. So I will be back for question and answer.